unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
Hey, I have a good idea. Fun thing to talk about. Let's talk about racism. You want to? Let's do it. Over the last few decades, 4 decades, all the decades that I can remember, I've been told that we need to talk about racism. It's something we don't talk about. Yet, we're always talking about it. What gets talked about more than racism? It's been my entire life has been a non-stop conversation about racism. Can you think of a time where it ever went away? Besides maybe for a few minutes in the 80s, it went away maybe? Or did it? Ebony and ivory. They were talking about racism. Always. But we need to talk about it. You know what we need to talk about? We need to talk about racism. I know what you need to talk about. Racism. I wonder why. Why do people care so much?
Well, because if you're not white, then, of course, you're making light of it, Merkley. Just because you're white. If you were brown, then, or black, then you would care. Of course, you're just trying to dismiss it because you're a white male.
Oh, but you're white too.
Yeah, but I know what's up, man. I know what's going on.
Okay. Well, tell me about racism then, white guy.
Well, racism is about power. So if you're not white, you don't get to talk. I mean, you can't be racist.
Oh, I thought it was about color of the skin. So, white guy with no power can talk about it. Like a really poor white guy who's fat and pimply and short and can't grow a beard. Can he talk about it?
No, you're obfuscating.
I don't think I am. We need to talk about racism. So let's go with your thing, that it's power. Maybe I agree with that. Let me explain. If whatever is racist doesn't have any power, then it doesn't matter. Right? For example, I am not magic. Seems like I'm magic when you really think about the universe, the fact that I'm even alive. But it's not magic that you don't have too. You're the same kind of magic as me. Am I right about that? So I'm not magic. So if I were to think something terrible, and a terrible thing, like I'm imagining that your head will explode. Oh, I'm imagining, I hope your head explodes. I hate your ugly head. I want it to explode. Nothing. No pop, no bang, no blood, no fun. I don't have magic powers. Now, if I enact a law that says because you're ugly and you're pink, your head should be exploded by an outside force, and then I enforce that law against you and all the ugly pink people, well now, that sucks. That seems like a type of racism that I should give a shit about. I should give a shit about any law or policy that requires the pink people to behave differently than, the beige people. Subtle hues, they're subtle. Pink and beige are often related. Peach, salmon, another shade. All distinct, speckled. Ginger, oh goodness. There should be laws against gingers. I know, because I'm a ginger and I need to protect myself from myself. I need to make sure that I'm unable to do certain things, like have power. I need to prevent my magic thoughts, because they're so important to others. My magic, my thoughts, my dark thoughts, and your dark thoughts. Good thing there isn't any magic. Good thing those thoughts don't matter.
Wait a minute. Are you acting like racism doesn't matter?
I didn't say that. I said racism matters if it's policy. If there's a policy attached to it that affects all people of that color, and it's written in law, it matters. However, if it's in somebody's mind, if it's their feeling, well, that's a preference. And it doesn't matter. Because people aren't magic. Right? Maybe they can use those thoughts to guide their voting, and maybe they can enact a policy that becomes a racist policy, and that sucks, but we can stop that. We can make that illegal. Isn't that fair? We can do that. I think we have, for the most part. I'm sure there's probably still 1 or 2 laws on the books somewhere that say, if a person is of this race, then this thing applies to them and nobody else. Or a law that applies to everybody except that race. That would also be a racist law with power attached. So I'm giving you that. No power, no racism. No big deal. Because if it doesn't have power, who gives a fuck? At that point, racism becomes about as important as swiping left or swiping right. I mean, I'm not going to deny your feelings about how you feel when somebody doesn't like you because of your skin color. Because a lot of people don't like me because of my freckles. I know that pain all too well. As any ginger kid with freckles can tell you, it is a painful upbringing. And it's not just painful because people don't like you because you're ginger. You can't... See, the brown kids, they've got this nice little wonderful thing, and because we've been taught that you can't be mean to brown or black people. But if you're speckled, if you're freckled and you have red hair, well, you can be as mean as you want. You can, and every ginger kid knows about the tears, and if you go to a teacher or an authority figure for comfort, well, they don't like you either. Even the gingers don't like you. Hell, nobody hates a ginger like a ginger. It's like most gingers don't want to be seen with other gingers. It's like, get away from me. You're going to make us too easy to spot. I got to hide, got to be in denial. So there's a lot of sadness and pain that goes with being a ginger. And I'm not even talking about the fact that I, as a ginger, can get a sunburn from watching the Travel Channel. Sunburns hurt. Oh, they hurt. They hurt. And not being able to even go outside when the sun is shining for too long. That's a bummer. Racist. The racist sun. Oh, the sun is racist. Because it has a policy, an actual policy, a power to injure the pink people. That racism matters to me. That matters. And here's some power. You want to hear some power? Power races. Women, many of them, have the power to deny me, a ginger, love and affection and attention and sex and the ability to breed. That's a power they have. So I don't like that racism. But what can I do about it? Probably about as much as anybody can do about forcing people to love them, which is nothing. You can't do anything. You can go to the gym. You can work out. You can go to a spray tan booth. You know? You can get plastic surgery. There's a lot of things you can do to trick people who naturally are not attracted to you to become attracted to you. You can probably even get some pheromone type thing going on, you know, colognes, all kinds of tricks. Money, you can just get rich. Being wealthy is a great way to counteract the evil racism attached to the power of people's brains and their preferences about who they want to boink. I apologize for saying boink. That's not a nice thing to say. Yeah, so racism kind of sucks, but you can't really force people to be attracted to you. You know? It sucks worse than being fat, because with being fat you can probably lose weight. Or maybe it's not worse. Maybe being fat is better because you can go, well, I could always lose weight, but you, ginger, you're always going to stay ginger. You know? So I get it. And by the way, take note. Gingers, all you gingers out there know what I'm saying already. But whenever you see a white guy hanging out with a bunch of black guys on the corner or something, more often than not, ginger. Almost always. Why? I don't know. Similar life experience, perhaps. Or at least maybe the gingers think so. Of course, gingers don't know what it's like to be a black guy, but they know what it's supposedly like. So maybe they just run to black people thinking they have something in common with them, while the black people are sitting around going, well, I don't know, fine, you can hang out with us, whatever, we don't give a shit. But yeah, take a good long look when you see a white guy hanging out with a bunch of black dudes. It's almost always a ginger, and he's probably there for a completely different other reason than the black dudes are there. You know, I don't know. Never been black. Have you ever been white? Hey, one black guy that's listening to this, have you ever been black or white? No, you haven't? Huh, crap. So you can't compare your experience with somebody else's unless, you know, just by observing, we can imagine that people's lives are better. I remember that Eddie Murphy skit where he puts on white makeup and suddenly he gets up, you know, the black guy gets off the bus and he's still white. He looks white. Everybody celebrates and he goes into a bank and they give him money. You know, that's a fun thing to imagine, that life is better if your skin color is different. That's, of course, where we invoke the idiom of the grass is greener on the other side. Privilege. White privilege. Is there white privilege? It's hard to say. You'd have to ask somebody who had been something other than white so they could compare their non-white experience with their white experience. You know, because there might be things that they're not looking at. Is there black privilege? I don't know. You'd have to ask a white person who had been previously, somehow, a black person. Michael Jackson, for example. He might be able to answer that question. But he's dead. He's dead. Yeah, and people knew him in both versions, so you'd have to figure out a control group where, you know, nobody knew. You'd have to be able to be a black person, then magically change without anybody knowing and be a separate white person. Then you'd have to be a Chinese person, and then you'd probably have to spread it amongst every single races, and you'd have to keep very, very good notes, and maybe you'd have to cover all mirrors so you didn't know what your color was at the time. Like, here's a good one. So you're blind. Here's a good experiment. This is what you can do. Here's how you figure out if there's privilege, okay? I'm giving you a list of things you can do if you want to figure out if white privilege or black privilege or Jewish privilege or Mexican privilege exists. What you do is you set up an experiment where you take a human soul. You have to find a soul that is walking around without a body, right? And what you'd do is you'd take that human soul, you would put it into a body, right? But you wouldn't tell the soul what color it was. You change nature so that they couldn't see their reflection, and anytime somebody mentioned their race, it would be blocked out from their ears, right? And then you have them keep very specific notes about their feelings and the way that they're treated in the world, right? About everything. You'd have to treat them about how their dreams are, how their employment is, how their travels are, and you'd have to get them somehow to live the exact same life and interact with the same people in the same place. And then you'd have to somehow at the end of this experiment, maybe let's say they do this for a year, the soul does this. Well, you have to suck the soul back out of the body, whatever. Let's say it started off with a black body, air quotes, because they're not really black. It's just a shade of beige or brown. And you'd have to figure out what hue, because darker is different than lighter, right? But let's just say, for example, then you put that soul into a black one. They'd have to go through the exact same experience, not knowing what color they are. Again, same thing. They could take various notes about everything, about all the aspects of their life. How does the food taste? How does the music sound? How do their neighbors treat them? And then you do it again. Put them in a freckled person's body, then put them in an Asian body, all having them interacting, doing a Groundhog Day version of life over and over again. And then after that, you would have to look at all of their notes, and see. Since they didn't even know what color they were at the time, you'd be able to go, well, here's how life happened when they were a ginger. Here's how they felt about life when they were this way. And then you'd have to repeat that experiment over and over again for probably at least, I don't know, what would you need to have? A group of at least 1,000 people to get a really good idea. So 1,000 souls inserted into at least 5 different races over time with a Groundhog Day exact experiment going over and over again. Then after that, you could compile and say, which skin color has the most privilege. But it's not just the color, too. You'd actually be going into that body. So different gene types have different kinds of builds. So they'd have a different kind of build, too. Their shapes would be different, So you'd get kind of an idea. So just do that. I'll wait for about a decade while you do that, and then we can get something. Otherwise, it might be just safe to assume that your journey is your journey, and everybody's journey is a roller coaster, and there's no guarantees in life that you're going to have happiness or sadness, trials and tribulations, no matter what you're given.
Dude, that's so stupid. What about really good-looking people?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that does seem like a privilege, If you're fucking good looking, like you're hot, symmetrical features, in shape, tall, athletic, talented, smart, good dancer, that seems like a privilege, right? Seems like a privilege. But how do you get a sense of humor. Is that important? How does a good-looking person get a sense of humor? It's almost impossible, you know. At best, they end up being cute, you know. Their humor becomes cute. It doesn't have the real gut laughing, you know. Really handsome people, they don't get this sense of humor. They do maybe sometimes accidentally, like if they have a lot of brothers and sisters who make them feel ugly. They are isolated in an environment where nobody treats them better because they're, air quotes, beautiful. So yeah, beautiful privilege. Huh. That's a pretty good one. Could there be such thing as a short, fat, pimply male privilege? I don't know. There seem to be a lot of those guys doing science and math. Bill Gates and Steve Wozniak come to mind. Elton John, maybe. Don't know. Is there a gift there? It's all racism. It's all racism, you know. All this stuff, all these preferences is racism. If you're married, let me tell you something. If you're married, if you're not fucking every race all the time, if you're not a total slut, I'm talking man or woman, if you're not out there absolutely fucking, consensually fucking every race imaginable, you're a racist. If you have a preference for tall, dark, and handsome, well, you're a racist. Because there's power attached to that. You're denying that person their breeding. You know? If you're not fucking gingers, you're a racist. Prove me wrong. This is the thing I love most about racism is I love it almost as much as the Salem witch trials. What a genius thing that was. I wish I would have come up with that. You know? That wonderful thing where you can just accuse somebody of something and they can't prove you wrong. It's my favorite. I love it. I love that the world is doing it. I'm being sarcastic, obviously, because it's a low form of humor. And dumb people like me employ it a lot as a substitute for actually being funny. Yeah, it's fun, right? You just get to accuse somebody of racism, of dark thoughts. You have an evil thought. No, I don't. Prove it. I can't. Go out and fuck all these people of different colors. Okay, if I have to, I will. I'm sorry I have to have sex with you to prove that I'm not racist. That boner, that's a proof. That's a measuring stick right there. That's your measuring stick, right? No, because there's people who have power. You can't. No, you're going to talk about rape as if it's a pleasure thing when it's really a power thing. It's a violence thing. I know, man. That's why we have to talk about this. And we never do. America doesn't ever talk about its racism problem. Even though it's on the news constantly. It's on the headlines constantly. It's in entertainment constantly. A whole network called Netflix talks about it constantly. Apparently, we need to talk about it more. So I'm doing my part. Damn it. We're talking about it. We are talking about racism.
Sounds like you don't think it matters.
Why does it sound like that? I'm saying it does matter. I'm saying there's nothing you can do about it. And it doesn't really matter much more than being fat, tall, skinny. It doesn't matter much more than any of the other things in the world matter. If you're dumb, that matters to you. You know? If you're not athletic, that matters to you. If you get your ass kicked in basketball, that matters to you. You know, if you're short, that probably matters to you. It probably hurts. There's a lot of things in life that hurt. And you can't do anything about it. Beyond what I said. The things you can do to trick. You could literally change your... Rachel Dolezal, she tried to trade her race You kind of, with spray tans and perms, you can kind of do it. If you change your identity and don't let anybody know who you were before, you could probably pull it off. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous to change your skin color. Boy, Michael Jackson got a lot of shit for it. If you put on blackface, if you put on makeup to be a different color than orange, you can do it if it's orange. Orange seems to be the acceptable blackface. It's not quite black. You can't do it with the hairdo. That's the thing. You can paint your face a darker color, but you better have blonde hair or something. You got to have something else. You can't be pretending to be a black person. There's no pretend. No. Well, actually, you can, and people can give you shit about it, and you can just go, fuck you, I don't give a shit. That is a possible course of action for you. To do what the fuck you want and not let these people accuse you of things that you can't prove wrong, Indefensible things. And if somebody does it, by the way, if somebody accuses you of racism, here's a hint. Just turn around and calmly accuse them of being a pedophile. It's good. It's a simple, easy tit for tat. They accuse you of a thought crime. You accuse them of a thought crime. Kablam! Done! Go get a corn dog with your brand new friend, your evil friend with terrible thoughts. Get yourself a corn dog, have yourself some mustard, and who gives a shit? Nobody gives a shit. You know who gives a shit? Remember how I said we need to talk about it? We need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. You know who wants us to talk about it? Media. News people. People who want to, what? Divide and conquer. Because let's be honest. How many times have you really had to deal with something besides the dating type stuff that I answered? When was the last time you went to DMV and had them say, sorry, sir, you're white, go to the back of the line. Or you're black, go to the back of the line. Or you can't have this because you're this color. When has that happened? Are there any places left in this country that have a no coloreds sign hanging up? No. But there are many places you can go where it's all white people or all black people or all Mexican people, where people just assemble on their own. You want to go to find a room full of black people? Go to church on Sunday, find a black church or find a white church or find an Asian church. Seems like when people go to church, they rarely go to a place that's mixed. Wonder why that is. It's weird. It's racist. Those black people in that black church, racist. Those white people in the white church, racist. Those Chinese people in the Chinese church, racist. Those Japanese people in the Japanese church, racist. Everybody's racist, 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 racist. Yeah, it's terrible, right? Imagine people wanting to hang out with people that seem like them. That's crazy.
Why are you hanging out with your family? You a racist?
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm hanging out with my brothers and sisters. By the way, I come from a mixed race family. It's mixed. It's crazy. It's controversial. I don't even know how the family deals with it. What will the neighbors think? Who cares what the neighbors think? Who gives a fuck what the neighbors think? Since when did the neighbors' opinion matter? Anyway, we've had to talk about racism. We didn't cover it all. There's a lot more to cover. I could go on forever because of the pain. Oh, the pain from growing up ginger. You'll never know. You'll never know. You really won't, actually. And that's fine, because I'm never going to know your pain. And your life looks painful to me, too, by the way. Because I don't want to live your life. I'm fine with my own life. My life's fine. I wouldn't trade it for somebody else's. And guess what's good about that? I can't. It's impossible. I can try to steal an identity, but you don't really steal anybody's identity. Guess what, dear listener who already agrees with me? You're stuck. You are stuck in your body until you die. And even then, there's no proof that you're getting out of your body. So just enjoy your body, whatever it is, as best you can, and quit looking at somebody else's body and wishing it was yours. Quit looking at somebody else's race or hair color or job or profession or nationality and imagining that it's somehow better or worse than yours. That's a fool's game. It's a fool's game. Because you'll never be able to experience it, ever. Your imagination, it's fun. When it stays in your head and doesn't become an annoyance to everybody else. Like mine often does. I speak from experience. Anyway, that's my little speech on racism. Thanks for listening.